Yes, this is Danhausen here, very nice, very evil. You are watching Geeks With Issues. And if you do not continue watching this video, it should be strange, you're cursed.
Hello, true believers, and welcome to another episode of Geeks with Issues 20XX. We are happy to invite you back to the basement of dreams at the Northern Berkshire Community Television Studios. Before we begin our riveting and exciting conversation, allow me to take this opportunity to introduce to you your geeks. On the end, our game master extraordinaire, Andy.
Hello.
In the middle, our technologist extraordinaire, Ogre. And I, your friendly neighborhood Geekmaster and Tuck. So let's dive right in with a topic that was brought up by Andy.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about using artificial intelligence in your tabletop games. Is there a place for it? Is there not a place for it? What is that place?
This is a spicy topic.
Yes, it is. And we've got 4.5 minutes.
So
I think with anything AI generative-wise, where the source of the generative is always in question. So, in generative AI, and I don't think really has a place in a creative sense there, especially because like there's, what was it? ChatGPT was caught using like Critical Role materials and stuff like that to create whole modules and everything, and it was just there's just a lot of I don't know that it just doesn't feel right overall.
That's a good point, and I think there's a distinction to be made between commercial like game content and what you're doing in your own home game. Because in your own home game, you're stealing from, copyrighted IPs all the time. Like you could run a Star Wars RPG using the Star Wars system, or you could just run it using Blades in the Dark or using something else, or a D20 system. And game masters can steal their ideas from anywhere. And it's not necessarily stealing if you're putting your own spin on it, and it's also not really copyright infringement if it's for your own personal use, and it's not really as devil's advocate. I'm just going to say what you do in your own home game. You're not likely to have the the role-playing game police or the real police coming and kicking down your door, especially because it's probably a civil matter. But I think that generative AI can be used to possibly generate ideas in the same way that a random table could be used to generate ideas for a role-playing game if you're the dungeon master or something. Maybe AI art can be used as a way to generate like a image to show your players that's maybe a little bit less copyright worrisome than just Googling something and taking that image straight from Google. Although more or less you are still, it is intellectual property and intellectual copyright is an important issue, but I think it opens a possibility for people generating ideas to adapt and not use wholesale for their own home games might be something that it could be used for.
I think there's a very solid argument there for using it as a creative seed and to sort of allow for that, almost like a thinking random table.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue that I have with AI in general is that they have yet to really figure out the ramifications and impact of the technical requirements of the hardware. Like they've got to use an absurd amount of water to cool the thing. They've got to use an absurd amount of electricity to run the thing. and you end up with like a weird ethical conversation where all of a sudden global warming comes into the tabletop.
Yeah.
And I have a certain amount of appreciation for the idea of using AI as that seed generator. I think that's a fantastic idea. The fact of the matter is, other than the paper that it was printed on, and even if it was printed on paper, because PDFs are ubiquitous now, the impact of a random table feels less to me
Pretty minimal. Yeah. Yeah.
than trying to rationalize, burning through the electricity and water that's required to random seed something using AI, unfortunately. I think going past idea generating, that's no bueno.
Yeah, I agree. If you're using AI art in your rule books or on your Magic the Gathering cards, that's a no-go for me.
So speaking of, we're going to go from no-goes to goes? Question mark? Ogre,
Yeah.
what is this about an
No,
iron
I got a
battery
good one.
chip?
It's a new snack brand, Rewind, has launched a limited edition flavor tortilla chip that aims to replicate the peculiar taste of licking a 9-volt battery. The chips features a sharp, tangy flavor with a mild metallic aftertaste, achieving through a blend of citric acid, sodium bicarbonate, and mineral salts. Reviewers found the taste surprisingly tolerable, likening it to a strong salt and vinegar chip rather than an actual battery. Would you try a 9-volt battery flavored chip? And would you try the 9-volt battery first before you try the chip, just to compare?
I'm laughing because surprisingly tolerable is a delightful way of describing a 9-volt battery chip.
Yeah, I'm just picturing that like written in quotes on the bag.
Yeah. And you can, one of the things, you can order a sample here. If you go to Rewind's website, you can order it. I think we'll have a link in the YouTube video when that goes up. So if you check us out there, you can order your very own sample bag of 9-volt chips.
So a quote from Dr. Ian Malcolm comes to mind.
Oh, yes.
Just, the scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't question whether or not they should. That said, I wouldn't buy a bag, but I would try one. There's a lot of science that we take for granted in our daily life, and food science is kind of one of those. I work in retail pharmacy, and I was at a grocery store pharmacy, and they had pickle flavored chips all of a sudden a couple months ago, just like they're pickle flavored this, pickle flavored chips, pickle flavored wings, pickle flavored all sorts of stuff. And it reminded me of 20 years ago when I was working at a different pharmacy, and all of a sudden all of the boxes of Prilosec or Allegra had all of this holographic metallic images all over the labels. And I'm like, that seems really weird and expensive, but that coincided with the technology to make that becoming cheaper. And coincidentally, that's about the same time foil magic cards and other cards came out. That didn't occur to me until years later, but maybe we'll have this 9-volt battery flavored potato chips is going to lead to some revolution a few years down the line that will actually impact something that people are likely to buy.
So I had a mentor when I was beginning to work in public media, and quite literally knew how charged a 9-volt battery was by licking it.
Wow.
and recommended that everybody try it at least once. And at the age of 15, bad ideas don't sound as bad as they actually are. So I have licked a 9-volt battery,
Yep.
and the description of the ingredients that you mentioned, Ogre, sound pretty on the spot for what you would need
Yeah. No.
to replicate the flavor, because
I've
a 9-volt battery is lemony, of all things.
I have licked 9-volt batteries before. In a semi-professional capacity. When we were working at Boy Scout camp, I had to experiment with and show a bunch of different methods for starting a fire.
Okay.
And so 9-volt battery and steel wool is one of those.
Right.
And so I carried a 9-volt battery around in my pocket. And one day I made the mistake of carrying around the steel wool in that same pocket and reached down to find my pocket very, very warm. So yeah, 9-volt batteries, you don't see too much of them these days. Like, everything's like lithium rechargeable. You don't really see even like just AA's or AAA's are less common than they used to be. So sourcing the 9-volt battery for comparison, might be more problematic than sourcing these chips.
You see, you must not have a lot of children's toys in your house.
Okay, I do not. They still come with 9-volt batteries, or at least alkaline batteries of some sort.
Yes, a significant number do.
Real quick,
All right.
what other dare would you make a snack food?
Oh, very quickly, what other dare? See, my son once got in trouble for bringing the super hot chip dare to school. So that one comes to mind.
One time playing with another geek, we had those every flavor like jelly bean things, and we were using them as counters because we didn't have minis or whatever. And like we started, removing miniatures from the board and eating them, having forgotten that they could be earwax flavored or whatever. So I think I'm good. I don't need to do that again.
Fair enough.
Straight Christmas story with this one, licking a flagpole in winter.
No.
Go for
Ooh, that would be an interesting taste
chip.
to replicate. Yeah.
All right. So back to our journey from the basement. This time we're headed to SummerSlam. Trevor takes us on this fantastic journey. Let's check it out.
Hello, yes, this is Danhausen here. Very nice, very evil. You are watching Geeks With Issues. And if you do not continue watching this video, it should be strange, you're cursed.
Every summer, the air gets a little thicker with anticipation. The streets fill with the hum of fans, some wearing brand new merch, others rocking t-shirts older than some of the rookies in the ring. We come from every corner of the country, carrying childhood memories, favorite chants, and stories of the first time we felt the roar of the crowd shake the floor beneath our feet. For a wrestling geek, this is more than a weekend. This is a reunion. A place where strangers become tag team partners, where legends walk the same halls as the next big thing, and where we all, just for a moment, feel like kids again. Here's the thing about WrestleCon. It's proof you don't need a giant corporate machine to put on something special. Compared to the official WWE conventions, like Fan Access or the shiny new Fanatics Fest, this was inexpensive, accessible, and honestly, more fun. The staff? Fantastic. You could tell the volunteers were wrestling fans themselves. because they treated you like part of the community, not just a ticket number. The energy stayed high both days. And then there was the Godfather, one of the coolest people you could ever meet. He ended up talking to my buddy, who happened to be the cameraman, about disc golf for so long, he almost forgot we were there to take a picture. It wasn't some quick meet and greet, it was like two fans bonding. Absolute legend. Thank you, Godfather. Day 2, yeah, parking was rough, but if you think about it, that's actually a really good problem. It means WrestleCon is doing so well, they might just outgrow this space next time.
Well, hello there. My name is Bryce Remsburg. I am an AEW referee. I am holding the AEW championship, but I am not the AEW champion. And I know a lot of people with issues, dorks with issues, nerds with issues, but my favorite kind of people with issues are geeks with issues. Luckily for you, you're watching Geeks with Issues. I'm one too.
Then came SummerSlam. MetLife Stadium was my first ever open-air stadium, and man, it hit different. From the outside, it's impressive, but stepping out into the stands for the first time, that view, the whole field, the ring right in the center, breathtaking, straight up badass. Before the show, we hit the Fanatics Experience store. The merch was awesome, but the place was packed and the clock was ticking. You couldn't really take it all in, but even the chaos kind of added to the buzz. Night 1, our seats landed us in the middle of families making memories. The kind I used to make with my dad when I was a kid. I was there with my best friends, having the time of my life, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my dad was there too. Night 2, we moved closer to the action. The crowd shifted. Hardcore fans, diehards in cosplay straight out of a Comic-Con. But the energy didn't just stay high, it leveled up. It felt like everyone was locked into the same heartbeat. WrestleCon Newark provided fans with a seamless, high-energy lead-in to SummerSlam 2025, offering close-up interactions with legendary and current wrestling stars. Meanwhile, inside the ring, WWE delivered a groundbreaking, emotionally charged two-night extravaganza, marked by hard-hitting championship changes, dream matches, and farewell moments, especially John Cena's final SummerSlam bout. And that wasn't just inside the events. All weekend, the people of New Jersey were awesome. Everywhere we went, there were wrestling fans, at the hotel, at restaurants, even just walking down the street. The best part? Being surrounded by so many self-proclaimed geeks, including AEW's own Bryce Remsburg. That's the magic of wrestling. You come for the show, but you leave with memories you didn't even see coming.
So, geeks, feelings from this particular group. Pro wrestling, yay or nay?
I've never been into it myself. I never really saw the appeal. It just seemed very fake and staged. But then after spending a number of years doing LARPing, live action role playing, a number of the people who did that came into it from a love of professional wrestling, which was not something that had ever really occurred to me. Like, I came from tabletop gaming, but I can see the crossover when you're talking about a live action role playing, something that's mostly staged, but still requires some skill and knowledge of the rules and conventions and such. So I'm more intrigued by it than I used to be, but it's not really my scene per se.
Okay.
I think they're a lot of fun. I was into it when I was a much younger version of myself. I mean, like 10 years old, like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, all of that whole drama and all of that was just so breathtaking at that age. There, I haven't really watched much of it in my older life, but it's always been such a fun thing.
See, and my opinion on it is, I've always wanted to be an announcer. And that's how we'll take that. So, Ogre, you've got another one for us this time, Chipotle delivery.
Yeah, Chipotle has launched a new drone delivery service called, let me see if I don't butcher this, Zapotle, in Rowlett, Texas, in partnership with Zipline. The service uses Zipline's quiet, zero-emission aircraft to deliver food directly to customers' doorsteps. Would you use it? Would you use that? And what should we never deliver using aerial drones?
Oh, those are two excellent questions.
I am hesitant to do so. I don't really like paying to go out to eat in general too much, let alone paying for delivery on top of that. But if someone else is like, having everybody chip in for it, I'd give it a shot.
You see, I am terrified by the prospect because members of my family are very, very fond of DoorDash. And the idea of like drone dashing my food would make that even more ubiquitous, because then no one would have to deal with a driver, which apparently is the worst. I've never door dashed myself, but apparently the worst part of door dashing is interacting with the driver. I don't know. But the fact that there is no driver, there's just a robot who's going to fly in and drop you your burrito.
Do you have to tip the robot?
Oh, you have to tip everything
No.
now. I can't
So how?
imagine you don't.
If you don't know how the technology, it's really interesting. So this the drone flies overhead. It lowers a giant tether with a box, and then the bottom of the box opens up, and it leaves the bag or the container on your doorstep, and then it zips it back up to the drone, which then flies back to the station. So it's totally autonomous there, and one of the safety features, if someone jumps on the rope, which will happen, what frat house won't jump on the aerial drone tether that's dropped down and try to do it? It'll actually release that tether and still fly back there. But it's I personally would give it a shot there. Chipotle aside, I enjoy their bowl every now and then, but it's if they wanted to deliver me. Would you mind delivery of like sushi or something? I don't know. Fish in the sky?
Fish in the sky. See, I'm trying to think of things that I wouldn't want delivered.
Yeah.
I don't order a lot of stuff. Like I can't imagine ordering like a book or something like that would be as fuel efficient as something that's a little less dense than a hardcover book or something. I don't know. I don't anticipate it coming to our neck of the woods soon, so I imagine we'll hear a lot more about it before we actually see it here.
Probably because our neck of the woods has lots of woods.
Yes, and lots of birds and other things that might interfere with
And mountains.
mountains. Yeah.
Okay.
It's zero emission. So, and that's zero emission has a lot of baggage with it in a lot of cases. So
It means zero
it's
emission here.
a lot of people yell and scream zero emission, and it's really they've used other means to outweigh specific emissions that are happening along the way, and that's not really zero emissions. It's just
a not in
math
my
problem at that
backyard
point.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing I would never order using aerial drone is 9-volt batteries.
I think probably lithium batteries you probably wouldn't be able to do. There's a lot of laws about shipping lithium batteries by air.
Well, yeah, because at a certain pressure they go pop.
Yeah. I don't. I think the way its laws are currently written, that would probably apply to drones as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the physics about that. At what point does the pressure become a problem?
That would be a cool experiment to do with a drone and a lithium battery.
Once.
Cross your fingers, then.
just don't cross the terminals.
And definitely don't cross the streams.
Yes.
All right. For our last topic, I wanted to, again, because it's been a minute since we've had new Geeks with Issues, there has been a lot of turmoil, drama in the Dungeons and Dragons space. Since we last did episodes, there was the entire issue over the open gaming license. There was concerns about Wizards of the Coast. While this isn't directly related to Dungeons and Dragons, the fact that Wizards of the Coast used the Pinkerton agency,
literal Pinkertons, yes,
to get a magic card back.
Yeah.
Has caused a lot of questions about the ethics of continuing to be a Dungeons and Dragons player. So I wanted to take a temperature of the room, especially since, as of this recording, it was relatively recently announced that Critical Role, the very well-known Dungeons and Dragons live play, will be using the Dungeons and Dragons 2024 rules as opposed to the Daggerfall rules,
which they created,
which the company that runs or owns or subsidiaries Critical Role, Darrington Press, created. So
and released. I think they probably were working on it, but released mostly as a response to the controversy you talked about earlier with the rule set and the open gaming license and such. I am reminded of another quote, this time by Gary Gygax, who once said or wrote that the secret that we don't want players to know is you don't actually need to buy our books. So I'm not sure if it raises any issues with continuing to play the Dungeons and Dragons. Buying more books, on the other hand, or wearing their apparel, I'm having some mixed feelings about as of late. But it's certainly interesting. Dungeons and Dragons is a subsidiary of Wizards of the Coast, which is a subsidiary of Hasbro, and role-playing is such a small percentage of Hasbro's market that they don't really care that much, as much as they used to when Wizards of the Coast was independent or when it was TSR, about what the culture surrounding it and become a bit more litigious than we would prefer. I'm not sure what we do about that exactly. I don't know if you have any ideas.
So from a personal standpoint, I have made the decision to take the what I would call it, even though I personally am not a huge fan of the Pathfinder game system because I find it to be a little bit over crunchy. I am taking the Pathfinder solution, and if I have an itch for playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I bust out the Tales of the Valiant books, which is the Kobold Press's version of the 5th edition rules. It's very much the 5th edition rules with the serial numbers scratched off.
Yeah.
The mechanics are very, very similar.
Yeah.
But it's definitely inspired me to look at other game systems, including the aforementioned Daggerheart, which, having played a decent amount recently, is fabulous.
Yeah, I agree.
I wasn't a big fan during the beta. They had a lot of stuff to work out. But I think this is a great opportunity to assess what you feel about your games and decide whether or not you want to try playing something different.
One thing that I heard recently that struck me as particularly poignant was describing current D&D as sort of I heard the term like kitchen sink setting or system before, but someone described it as like an MCU bloat of just there's so much stuff going on, so many different systems interacting. It's a chaotic mess with it's just too full of things going on. And so I'm more interested in systems that are tailored to telling a particular story a particular way with a particular set of rules that you're interacting, and not just having like, oh, we've got, a witch and a giant and a robots and all of these other things. Witches and sorcerers use completely different magic systems, and it's difficult to tell how they work together and how they would function as a party, which seems to be the way a lot of the Marvel movies are going, and a lot of how D&D games can be without a good focus on we are going to be playing members of this group or playing in this region or playing some sort of grounding or framework for the group to give some sort of cohesion to it, because otherwise you could end up with just a mishmash of oddball characters that don't really have anything holding them together. And the system seems to be the same way a little bit to an extent.
Ogre, we dominated the conversation on that one. Do you have any final thoughts before we switch to the end?
Yeah, no, y'all kind of, you covered it. My thought was that controversy always wants us to look elsewhere, which is always healthy when it comes to gaming. Looking at multiple games, figuring out something, getting ideas from other games to bring back to D&D, because that gem, the D&D gem, will always be there. So if you're looking elsewhere, see what you can learn there, bring it back if you want to go back, or if you want to, go to Daggerheart and spend your time there for the rest of existence, go for it. But I think expansion on the different ideas within the role-playing world is good.
Another thing one last thing I will say is that I've heard a thing about the even and odd rule for Star Trek movies. I've heard that a similar thing applies to Dungeons & Dragons editions, where the even ones kind of suck. And 2024 rule set is essentially 6th edition.
Fair enough. With that, true believers, we have come to the end of another episode of Geeks with Issues 20XX. We want to thank you for joining us. Until next time, this has been
Andy,
Ogre,
and Tuck. Hoping you geek on, geek out, and geek everywhere. Just clean up after yourself. We'll see you next time on Geeks with Issues. Goodbye, everybody.
You gotta blow on it. You gotta blow on it. I used to think anything was possible. I thought that I could be a king or Caesar. But I don't need all of that gold or silver. That's how I know that I'm a true believer. Some people wanna climb the corporate ladder, TBS reports, politics and schemes. Thanks to my chainsaw, my cubicle is firewood. Now I'm living in a basement of dreams.